Morning. It's Wednesday, October 1st, 2014, 9 o'clock, and we're in the Senator Hearing Room, Courthouse Square, 555 Court Street Northeast for our weekly Board of Commissioners meeting. We start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance, so please join us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Pardon me?
I wasn't trying to rush.
Oh, okay. Well, we got a little cadence issue again. All right. Our first item every week is public comment, and we do have a couple people signed up, so if you'd come up and give your name and address. The first is Natalie Janie.
This side over here.
All right.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Natalie Janney. I'm with Multitech Engineering. Our office is at 1155 13th Street, Southeast Salem, Oregon, 97302. I'm here today to talk to you about the Cordon Road apartment site, more specifically the pedestrian path. Just to give you a little history on why you've already heard about this issue once and made a decision, but we were urged by the Planning Commission to come back and talk to you about it again, so that's why we're here. As a part of the partition for this site at Cordon Road and Maclay Road, a pedestrian path was required to connect the apartment complex to the elementary school, and on that handout you can see the site's in blue and the school is in purple. So we went through and we evaluated the different options for a path, and we decided that what we thought was the best option was Route 1. It's the red path on the red line on that handout. And we designed it and turned it into the city of Salem. They approved the design and said that we needed to get the county's approval to cross the 1-foot reserve strip to Clydesdale. So we did. We went through Public Works, and the issue came to you. You heard about it. We weren't told that you were hearing about it. We weren't told when the meeting was. We weren't allowed. So since we didn't know, we couldn't come and plead our case. And we got a letter in March that's attached behind that handout, or behind the aerial, that said that you didn't approve the crossing of the reserve strip because you didn't believe it was a safe path for kids to get to the school. So we went to Planning Commission to try and remove the condition because we thought that was really the only option to get the path there. We looked at other options. The other option is the orange route on that aerial, Route 2. It has, it creates a walking path through similar circumstances, through vacant land. It'd be paved and lighted, but it would also be similar to Route 1. It would connect to a sidewalk on Maclay Road, actually a paved pedestrian path. It wouldn't be sidewalk. And Maclay Road's very busy. Then it would connect to sidewalk, and the kids to get to school would have to walk over a mile to get to the school. So that's obviously not real desirable either. There is a third option. If we could get the condition to eliminate the pedestrian path removed from the conditions of approval, the school district has stated that because there would be no walkable situation for the kids, that they would bus the kids to school. So that would be temporary until that property to the southwest developed, and then Gaffin Road extension would eventually connect to Clydesdale and sidewalk would accompany it. But we don't know when that would happen. So pretty much we were encouraged by Planning Commission to come and appeal to you again about crossing the 1-foot reserve strip. And really, we just kind of need some idea of what your feeling is about it. If your answer is still no, you like Route 2 better, or no, the kids should be bused, or yes, you can cross the reserve strip.
I'll go ahead and start. Natalie, this isn't really an opportunity to discuss things or come back to you, but I'm going to ask the other commissioners because I can tell you my answer is no. So if that's what you want to hear, I can give you that.
Yeah, and I apologize for coming to you like
I
this. We didn't
understand.
really know of an avenue time-wise.
The other
so-
alternative is to set up some kind of work session, but if it's not going to go anywhere, I don't want to waste your time.
Okay.
So, Commissioner Carlson?
Well, I'm just, number one, I'm surprised you're here because you could call the board office or planning. Did you talk to the planning department before coming here?
No.
All right, well, when we had the meeting, we asked them to get back to you to provide you additional maps. They had other routes that they had given us to look at and so on. I'm sorry that you weren't informed that we were talking about it. And really, it wasn't just the commissioner's decision. It was with the advice of our Public Works Department that we made the decision that we made. So I'm personally not interested in revisiting it either, but I think in terms of understanding why and what we believe some of the other options are, it's important for you to talk to our planning staff. And Joe is here in the back, and Cindy Schmidt was involved in the discussion as well. So I'd encourage you to do that.
Just a question, I guess, because I wasn't here in March, but a question, and maybe this isn't the right time, but I see another path that's not even talked about. It's right through those apartments right there.
We
And-
looked at that as an option, but it requires a huge payment for their loan to allow access from one property through their site, so it's not financially feasible.
How huge is huge?
Yeah.
Over, it's like 1% of their loan, so it was over $100,000 plus a maintenance fee to the owner of that apartment complex for an annual maintenance and access.
Of what amount?
I don't know exactly.
Okay. That would be useful information.
All right.
Thank you very much for your time.
Next is David Beam. David?
My name's David Beam. I'm an advocate for special needs population in Marion County. I want this mental health thing is approved for Marion County for 4 years because we need it for disability people and mentally ill in this county. A lot of them don't have any services. So I'd like to see the commissioner approve this today, and I'd like to be on this committee as soon as possible. Thank you, commissioners.
All right, thank you, David. All right, get organized here. Next item is our consent calendar. I think Commissioner Carlson, I believe it's you.
All right, Mr. Chair, I would move today's consent calendar. Under Board of Commissioners, we have 2 OLCC applications recommended for approval. They are the Benedictine Brewery, St. Benedict, and Scenic Valley Vineyards, Jervis. Under Health, approve a participating provider agreement to allow Marion County to be compensated for health services provided to MOTA members with respect to the health benefit plans offered by MOTA. And approve an order to extend the due date for application for renewal of the Idana, Detroit ambulance service area. Under Public Works, approve Amendment Number 1 to the intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Department of Transportation, Delaney Road Project, to extend the construction authorization date until December 31st, 2014. And receive hearings officer's recommendation denying case number ZCCP 14-002 Ferris Timber, Inc., clerk's file number 5688, and schedule a public hearing for October 29th, 2014.
I'll second.
All right, it's moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar. Just read. Any further discussion? I see none. All in favor, then say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion's passed. Our first item is an annual event. I'd like to say I'd enjoy it, but I don't because of the subject matter. We consider approval of a proclamation designating October 2014 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Marion County. Walt Beglaw, Kim Larson, Jane Downing. If you'd go ahead and come up and then begin.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, members of our community, Good morning. My name is Walt Beglaw. I have the privilege of serving as your district attorney here in Marion County. I'm going to kind of lead off. I always get the chance or take the opportunity to lead off, but I have to say, being joined by these two ladies here, Kim Larson from our Victim Assistance Program, the director there, and Jane Downing from the Center for Hope and Safety. We're always teaming up, and maybe I ought to let them go first sometime because they're really kind of on the right on the front end working direct with survivors of domestic violence. For all of you listening, watching, and leaning in, October is National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And this year I'd like to extend our respect and condolences in memory of those women murdered. These are not the survivors of domestic violence. On August 30th, Cassandra Wagner in Silverton was murdered. On August 9th, Kathleen Schwartz in Mount Angel. And then last November 30th, Adrian Nicole Bird was murdered in Turner. All murdered in Marion County in less than 10 months. That's kind of the grim start to this, but murder is the tragic outcome of the senseless yet deliberate battery of perpetrators of domestic violence. Not only do we see it here in every corner of our county, but across Oregon and nationally. And I know that the NFL has brought the issues in the NFL and individuals there, but this has always been an issue, sustained over my entire tenure in the district attorney's office, and teaming up with the different partners in public safety around violence. It's sustained. The numbers have always been high and tragic. The ones that don't end up in murder are attempted murders with serious injuries, strangulation. These men and women are battered, and every Monday morning, you've heard me say this before, every Monday morning up on the third floor here in this building, our deputy district attorneys are at their desk with 10, 15, 20 files brought in by law enforcement over just one weekend in Marion County of those arrested for battering their domestic partner. So that's a tough start to the morning for all of us, but it's even a tougher start for all those survivors out there. And when I think about these communities, it's not only an individual challenge every day, but the communities are impacted. I think of the Zielinski murder in Kaiser, how that really kind of changed, that it altered the heartbeat of that community permanently. And so I think that's part of our mission here, part of our effort to bring awareness just 1 month, but stretch that out over the years to elevate the community's response and knowledge and commitment to this. And so that's a good place to end my comments, is that this board, besides it being in the news because of the NFL and other celebrities engaged in domestic violence, you've always placed a premium on this, and we're always having this conversation. We've just, in the Public Safety Coordinating Council, Commissioner Carlson, who chairs that, brought up victims in one of our last meetings to talk about the resources that we are dedicating and how we need to kind of keep that elevated and up in terms of our response as a public safety system. So to all of you, thanks for that continued dialogue and support through all of that. So let me turn then to, again, we've got a great team in Marion County. And I'm going to turn, so we've got our victim assistance program, and we all kind of reflect different resources that we dedicate within the community. And I'm going to turn to Kim, who runs our victim assistance program and has an advocacy component and kind of chairs our council and that kind of thing, and let her share a few thoughts about what we're doing and where we want to go.
Good morning. We appreciate the opportunity to come here again this year. I think this year we're hoping to reach out to the community and seek the help of our community members in trying to address domestic violence in our community. And we can do that in a variety of different ways. One of the ways that we do that in our community is coming together as community partners and allies and working with a concerted effort to try to address domestic violence. We do that with our Domestic Violence Council. And this next year, we have as a council our focus of trying to get out into the community, do more community education and awareness, as well as professional training. But we've also been joined in partnership with several community agencies or groups in coming forward and saying we want to help this effort and provide some support. And so as community members, if you have the ability to come together and join some of those partnerships, that can make a real difference in building our support in our community for victims of domestic violence. Another way is as individuals, we can all make a difference with domestic violence, whether that means reaching out and contacting people or having connection with people who we know are experiencing domestic violence. Unfortunately, we all know people who are experiencing domestic violence. We may not know that we know that, but we are connected with people every day that are experiencing domestic violence. And as community members, we can educate ourselves. We can reach out to programs like the Victim Assistance Program or Jane's program at the Center for Hope and Safety and seek information and education for ourselves so that if we do have contact with someone, then we have some information to provide them. And we know what resources exist in our community so that we can help connect them to those resources if they're in a place where they can do that. Another way that as individuals we can work toward ending domestic violence is speaking up and interrupting victim blaming when we hear it happening and interrupting the jokes and the comments that get made about victims being responsible for their abuse. So I think sometimes that can be intimidating, but it doesn't have to be a confrontational kind of conversation, but it can be a conversation around what we know about domestic violence and that we know that the abusers are the ones that are responsible for that behavior, not the victims. But we have some great agencies in our communities that are here to help people figure out how to have those conversations. And so we're really encouraging our community to participate and help us in that effort. And Jane is going to be able to talk about the great center that they now have that is, I think, going to be a great opportunity for our community to come together even more and work together in this effort.
Thank you, Kim. Good morning, commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity to come and talk about this really important subject. And one of the things that I hope you know is this is unique for our program and the district attorney's program and victim assistance to sit at the same table and come before county commissioners and talk about this subject. And I love that in Marion County that we have a great partnership and that every year our district attorney is saying, this is an important issue. We need to keep talking about it. We need to keep focusing on it until we don't have any more murders in our community. And that's the goal. Each one of us here works every day to put ourselves out of a job. And that's kind of a unique role to be in, but it's so important that that's the focus for us. And so I want to tell you a little bit about how we do that, how we're not just focused on the survivors of today, but trying to make sure through the community education that Kim talked about and through other methods of things that we're doing to try to say, let's prevent this in the future. Because I don't want you to think that we sit up here and think that this is okay for this to happen in our community or it's just to be expected. We want to strive for a community where that is not the norm and that we're not having to come up here and tell you about those. And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about the new Center for Hope and Safety. It's a very exciting thing that's happened in our community. We've received some wonderful attention for being able to open a center where all the community is welcome to come and community partners can come and help individuals. So we are now at 605 Center Street Northeast. We have tripled our space. And I want to tell you, it's not just about tripling our space, it's about providing better quality services. And so we have confidential meeting space. When someone walks into the center, they're immediately shown, if they're in crisis, they're shown into a quiet, wonderful room that has toys for the kids and is set up for them to be able to talk with someone one-on-one. We have survivor computer workstations where they can search for employment and housing, and every single day we've had folks on those computers. We now have a teen room, and we've had teens meeting with our youth services coordinator where they can talk about issues that they're going through, teen dating violence, sexual assault, those types of things. And we have a huge playroom for the kids, child care center. We have 3 support groups going on at the same time in English and Spanish, and child care for free for all of those groups. Every day we have folks coming in and getting services. Every day they're calling in. We now have 6 volunteer stations just for folks to answer the crisis line. And so every day there are people there, that phone rings once and they're on it, talking with someone, supporting them, helping them. Our youth services coordinator every single day, just about, is out in the schools, training thousands of youth every year. And we know that that's what's going to change things. So we're meeting the needs of survivors today. We're providing 911 cell phones. We're doing all those different kinds of things. We're making safety plans. We're helping with a lot of restraining orders. And that's one of the great things. We have a partnership with victim assistance. They can come over to our office and help with that and meet with someone, or vice versa. And that's a unique partnership where we're helping each other because there's been so many folks coming in for protection orders, which is not unusual. When there's a murder, we get a lot of calls saying, I'm afraid that's going to happen to me. And so we're talking with them about safety planning and what they can do to get help. And then we're also working towards the future of not having these issues come up for families in our community. And so the Center for Hope and Safety is going to take us to that next level where we're going to be able to work even more closely with our community partners and build a safety net around victims and survivors in our community that's going to make a difference in the long run. And so I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about that, and just really appreciate the opportunity to come and tell you about the things we're doing and how we're working to try to end domestic violence in our community in the future.
All right. Questions, comments?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here. Walt, maybe this is a good question you could help me with. I remember probably 6 months ago I met with you and the sheriff separately, but the number of calls that he was dealing with around domestic violence, I think were 70% of the calls that he dealt with. And do you have a percentage of the amount of cases that the DA's office deals with in domestic violence?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Cameron, thanks for that question. Just kind of put it in perspective, in our criminal division, we've got 4 different teams, and we have an entire team of prosecutors dedicated solely to the review and prosecution of domestic violence cases. When I sit down with him and kind of look at the annual numbers, every year, regardless of when you see variation in other areas of crime, it's been sustained and high year after year, and we do well over 1,000 cases come in, and close to that is what we're prosecuting every year. And the range of those cases is extraordinary. Obviously, I led off with the most tragic crime that can occur in any community with murders. And it is a good percentage of the homicide cases that we actually do in this community are domestic violence murders. But again, the degree of seriousness is all reflected in that 1,000 cases. Attempted murder, assault in the first degree, assault in the second degree. 10% of those is what I call the advanced domestic violence. Don't read me wrong on this, but it's called strangulation. And it's horrific. 1 out of 10 cases that we prosecute is choking someone out. And so those cases run the whole gamut of violence. The physical violence is just one aspect of it. And I know I'm going a little too far here for the question, but the emotional control, the financial control, all of those things are part of the bigger dynamic of violence and control over an individual. So we see all those aspects, and I couldn't leave this out because it's usually very common in domestic violence cases, but is sexual assault in our cases. So it adds a new dynamic to the prosecutional responsibility in reviewing a particular case. So 1,000 a year for years and years.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, if I may just make a comment. I know I've been up twice now to the Clackamas Family Justice Center with Jane, and we're having a meeting. It's October 9th with a group of us in public safety to really see if there's some things we can even do differently here in the future. So I know it's a top issue for you that are sitting at the table, as well as for the three commissioners up here. So I thank you for the work you're doing, and we're going to look forward to seeing how we can support it in the future.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming, as you do every year, and highlighting this important issue. We did have an opportunity, as you mentioned, with Public Safety Coordinating Council and Kim and Jane. You were pivotal in that conversation. Primarily, it was brought about because the legislature passed House Bill 3194, which has grant funding for community corrections, but as part of that includes funding for victim services. And we wanted to highlight as a foundational piece what victim services we have here in Marion County. And I think what we heard was that, and as you mentioned, Jane and Kim both, that we work so closely together here in Marion County, probably much more so than they do in other areas of the state. So we already have, in many ways, the center that it's more of a virtual center, but with the Center for Hope and Safety, and I keep my eye on that because every time I come out of the parking garage, I drive by when I'm going to various appointments, and it's really fun to see it coming together. But what I did want to ask, I have two questions. The first question is, at that presentation, while we have a lot of great services and we heard about them, there are some gaps in services, and could you just pick one or two and tell us what we still need here in Marion County for service delivery around this topic?
Thank you, Commissioner. I would say we, of course, need more advocates. Both of our offices struggle to meet the needs to have enough folks to do that safety planning piece, protection orders, which sometimes take hours to fill out, and safety planning sometimes can take a great deal of time. And so advocates, and bilingual advocates for our community in particular. We have 5 individuals who are bilingual in our office out of 14 staff, but it's still always a struggle to have enough. And I would also say the other gap is in resources for victims, housing, employment. Very often they have been kept out of the workforce for a great deal of time, and so training for employment is going to be difficult. Childcare is difficult. And so you kind of have two sides of it. You have the advocacy side where we could certainly use more resources. This PSU did a study and found that just for our program, and this was several years ago, and we have doubled in the number of contacts to our program in the last 6 years. But about 6 years ago, when they did this study, they found that we should have 30 advocates just for crisis intervention, not for any of the other services we provide, shelter, any of those other things, just crisis intervention. And we have 14 total, and 3 of those are in DHS offices being co-located to provide services to child welfare and self-sufficiency. So we have about 10 advocates in our office where we should have probably 40. But we're happy to have what we have, and we're providing the best quality services we can, but it is difficult. I think the resources is hard. And there are many areas where folks are being tugged for funding to be able to provide enough. And so we recognize that that's a difficult thing, but we certainly could use additional resources to help us provide better, provide those services. And then on the other side of it, come alongside survivors and provide that housing, employment piece that would help them to be able to become self-sufficient, which is the goal for them and for us.
Thank you. I would love to see that study. I know it's a little dated, but I think it would be a useful historical piece to take a look at.
Absolutely, I'll provide it to you.
Thank you. So second question is that you mentioned you want to get out in the community more. I know you're out in the community a lot, and as you mentioned, working with schools and kids. We as commissioners are out and about also, and like today we have a luncheon in Woodburn with officials up there. If you wanted to provide a one-pager or some brochures or something for us as we go out this month, I think we'd be happy to pass those out to the officials. And I guess my question would be, because we're going to Woodburn today and we'll bring some of these, but does the in Woodburn, do they call Salem? I saw there's a toll-free line, but basically the closest resource for them would be Salem.
It would be, but we do have support group in Salem also, and we do a lot of outreach to the northern Marion County area. Our bilingual, bicultural advocates are out there on a regular basis, making sure that they know about our program. And since we've done the name change and the and location change, we're going to do a whole sweep through the entire county. We actually, in the last couple of years, have visited 30 different small county communities to make sure that they know about our services, and we're going to do that entire sweep again and try to reach all 44 small communities in Marion County to make sure they know that we are the place where they can get services 24 hours a day, 365 days a year.
Great. Thank you very much for that.
I just really don't have very much to add, but I was kind of watching. It seemed like we have a pretty complete program, but I do hear gaps. But we have a district attorney and sheriff who just won't tolerate this, and I heard that number, like 1,100 out of 1,100 will be prosecuted. So that should be pretty good deterrent. And then on the other end, help for victims when they come, and you can assume wheel back, because I think people must call, and I'm sure some of your first answers call the police, and then we go from there. But I don't know if we're making great progress, but I do like the sound that we're trying. So, well, you were going to say something, go ahead.
No, well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to kind of end with a plug for, and maybe Kim mentioned this, but we're going to do our Steps to Safety on October 11th, and that is our annual Domestic Violence Awareness Walk Run. It's going to be out at the Department of Police Standards and Trainings this year. We used to be down at Minnow Brown, but they have invited us in there. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be quite a sharp opportunity for members of our community to contribute, be there, learn, and participate. And so that's October 11th out at in the morning at DPSST, right near our correctional facility there, right past on 4000 Almsville Highway. So thanks for the time this morning to visit with you about this.
Thank you. Well, we have a proclamation we need to approve.
Mr. Chair, I'll move the proclamation proclaiming October 14th as Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
All right, it's moved and seconded to approve the proclamation declaring October 2014 Domestic Violence Month. Further discussion? Don't hear any. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye. Motion passes. Now, as we do, we'll read that proclamation. Commissioner Cameron, would you begin?
Whereas 3 women in Marion County were murdered in the last 12 months as a result of domestic violence, and whereas the crime of domestic violence is not just a personal or family issue, but instead is an issue that belongs to and impacts our community as a whole. And
whereas the Center for Hope and Safety, formerly Mid-Valley Women's Crisis Service, received over 21,000 contacts to their program last year and provided more than 6,301 nights of shelter to 267 individuals, with nearly one-half of those sheltered being children, and whereas the Marion County District Attorney's Office received nearly 1,200 reports of domestic violence in the last year, with 10% of these reports involving strangulation, and
whereas the Marion County Victim Assistance Division provided services to more than 1,054 victims of domestic violence, supporting them in making choices for their safety and walking alongside them through the criminal justice process. And whereas we know as individuals we can make a difference by speaking up and reaching out to help victims and survivors, since most people personally know someone who is or has been a victim of domestic violence. Now, therefore, the Marion County Board of Commissioners proclaim October 2014 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and resolves that as a community we will stand together and collectively raise our voices to speak out against domestic violence, knowing that our silence can be deadly. All right. Thank you very much for coming in this morning. Now, don't know how we knew we'd approve it, but there is a signed version of this proclamation available for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is under Health. We consider approval of a Marion County Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Advisory Committee bylaw. Rod Calkins, Carrie Moeller. Good morning.
Morning. Good morning, Commissioners. Rod Calkins, Marion County Health Department Administrator. I want to start by noting that Marion County has many advisory boards and committees that provide excellent volunteer opportunities for our community members to get involved in important issues and help guide those issues and how they're addressed in our community. The Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Advisory Committee will be one of those. Today we're asking you to approve the bylaws for Intellectual and Developmental Disability Advisory Committee. And these bylaws would put that committee's work in alignment with revised Oregon administrative rule. The purpose of this committee is is multi-purposes, actually. One is to advise the Community Developmental Disability Program. The other is to advise the Marion County Health Advisory Board that looks at kind of the overarching issues in healthcare. And through that board, another purpose is for this committee to advise the Marion County Board of Commissioners regarding issues affecting individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families. And Carrie will explain a little bit more about what the committee's about.
Good morning. We've come before to talk about the significant changes in the developmental disability system, including the initiation of the Community First Option Choice, otherwise known as the K Plan. The result of the K Plan brings comprehensive services and supports to our community members who have developmental disabilities and intellectual disabilities. Currently, today, we have more than 3,200 individuals we're serving in Marion County. Approximately 650 of those are children, and we provide a comprehensive array of services and supports. The initiation of the K Plan means some really significant changes, and we're looking forward to the support and advice of the committee to help us ensure that we're providing and implementing those services well for our community members. We are currently and have been working with the Volunteer Services Coordinator to seek participation in the committee. At the direction of the board, we will seat members. The membership is a range of 8 to 12 members, including individuals with developmental and intellectual disabilities, as well as family members. The committee is charged with having at least 50% of the committee membership being those folks who are in service or family members who have children and adults in service. We'll have capacity for providers of services in our community, as well as advocates on the board. As Rod said, the committee reports to the advisory board, and we're seeking a chair and vice chair who will be appointed by the Health Advisory Board and come before you for approval. we have a highly engaged community with regards to our developmental and intellectual disability services, including community members who've already come forward with an interest in helping to fill seats in the committee. You heard this morning from Mr. Beam and his interest, and we are excited to have his support and other community members help us in this effort.
All right.
So I'm excited that we're bringing this forward, and we have been hearing from Mr. Beam regularly, every week, as a matter of fact. So I know he's very excited to have this finally come forward. So what would he or others that want to be on the committee do to be appointed? Who would they contact? And when are you anticipating the group will be formed and hold its first meeting?
Interested members can go to the www.co.marion.or.us. That's our county website. And at the far right on that website, there's a link to volunteer opportunities, and in there's an application for membership to the committee.
And I'm assuming they can also come in person to business services and get a form, and they're on the 4th floor, right? And Kathy Crocker is here, and she's our volunteer coordinator, and she would be happy to help people that either don't have a computer or don't feel like they have the ability to go online and sign up.
Correct.
I think that would be important. So the other part of my question, when's the first meeting?
As soon as we get a chair, a vice chair, and selection. So we're hoping maybe within, given the interest, we think that could happen relatively quickly. We're hoping before the fall.
Well, we're in fall right now.
Before the end of the fall.
Looking
So
October, November?
October, November, yes.
Okay, great. All right, that would be good. So if it's December and they still haven't had a meeting and we're getting calls, we'll let you know, okay?
Please do.
All right. Anything else? Good, thank you.
Okay, well, Mr. Chair, I would move that we would approve the Marion County Intellectual and Developmental Disabilities Advisory Committee bylaws.
I'll second.
All right, it's moved and seconded to approve the Marion County Disabilities Advisory Committee bylaws. Further discussion? See none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I didn't want to add this, but they have to be approved by the board, so I assume you'll be getting those names into us and Kathy pretty quickly so you can get into business.
Yes, we will. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next item's under Public Works. Consider approval of a contract for services with Metro Metals Northwest for $6 million for the collection, hauling, and recycling of ferrous metal recovered at the waste energy facility in Brooks. Jeff Bickford, good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Jeff Bickford, I'm the Environmental Services Division Manager at Public Works Department, and I am here to talk about metal recovery and recycling this morning. Specifically, at the Covanta Waste Energy Facility, where all of our waste from here in Marion County goes for energy recovery and disposal. After that process, the ash that comes out still contains a fair amount of ferrous metal left into that material. So as part of that process, the metal actually goes past a series of magnets, where basically there's a drum magnet and a cross-belt magnet where ferrous metals are pulled from that ash stream and recovered. Basically, over the last couple of years, it's averaging almost 7,500 tons per year of ferrous metal that's actually recovered post the incineration process. So materials that the folks decided, or for some reason or another, not to recycle prior to throwing their waste away, at least we're recovering it on the back end. So in September of 2003, we contracted with the company Metro Metals, Inc. from Portland, and they've actually been receiving and paying us for that metal that we've been recovering since that time. Their current contract ended actually yesterday. And we basically went out in August and put out a request for proposals, looking for companies that would have the interest in recovering that metal, and of course, obviously looking for the best price that we could get for that material. We had 3 proposers. It was Metro Metals, it was Schnitzer Steel, and Rivergate Metals, all 3 out of the Portland area. And Metro Metals had the most advantageous and best pricing, highest pricing essentially, of the 3. So they are the ones that we are, again, suggesting that we contract with. The new agreement as proposed, is a 3-year agreement with a 2-year option. And really the reasoning behind those timings really links into our current agreement with Covanta, which is a 3-year with a 2-year option. So we wanted those two to coincide. So if for some reason we didn't move forward beyond that 3-year, this would link up with that. The revenue that we receive, which is estimated now to be approximately 1.2 million or so a year. And one thing that I want to be specific on pointing out is that revenue actually is split with Covanta. So while we receive it initially, that approximately half of that ended up paying back to them as part of our agreement. And staff is recommending approval of the Metro Metals agreement. I'm willing to take any questions.
All right. Are there questions?
I have
Go ahead.
questions. Okay, so Jeff, help me understand. So this is a 3-year contract, right?
Correct.
And so you split the 6 million into 2 million, 2 million, 2 million?
Actually,
And then
the
it's an
way
up
this was
to,
put-
or is it over 5 years? That's that's question number 1.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. The way that was formatted would be, it has the potential to be a 5-year, so that's the 6 million would be the 1.2 times 5.
Okay, all right. So even though it's a 3-year definite with a 2-year option,
Correct.
and then you took the 6 million and spread it over the full 5 years.
That is correct.
Right.
That is the maximum potential.
Okay, so then is the 1.2 million Marion County receives this from them, or what's the relationship of the money?
That would be what we would receive from Metro Metals as the payment, and then we would in turn make the split and pay Covanta their
Okay,
share.
all right. So what does the company do that we're Metro Metals?
Well, they actually come up and they pick up the metal from Covanta, take it back, they shred it, process it, and basically write us a check based upon the poundage that they pull.
So my assumption is that it's worth more than the 1.2 million a year, so they're getting a take of it too to pay their expenses then.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
So how did we land on the 1.2? Out of what proportion of that is that of what the value is of the
Sure.
metals?
This is based upon index pricing that they use, and all the companies that proposed did this. There's an American Metals Market Association has published indices for all around the country for different types of metal and different markets. They're taking a published monthly rate and then subtracting their processing fee. And Metro Metals actually had the smallest processing fee of the 3 proposers. So that creates the largest net for Marion County.
Okay, great. And so then I'm assuming it's an up to, so it's based on the actual amount of material that they get. So if they don't get any material for a month or 2, it's not like they're paying us any money for anything.
Correct. I mean, we were pulling full time, so they would have the material. And of course, that dollar amount is based, those market rates go up, fluctuate up and down.
Okay.
So that's based upon an average market rate. So it could go up or could go down above or below that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Jeff, so you mentioned, was it, how many tons that you said in your opening?
Approximately 7,500 a year.
7,500 tons a year?
Correct.
Okay. And how is that measured? What's the accountability for getting that number?
Well, they weigh out from the facility on the scales that we operate.
Okay, when they pick it up, they weigh out at the Covanta plant on their
Correct.
way up.
Correct.
And then is there any type of a shrinkage or anything once they process? Do they have accountability for once they leave there, or they're paying for what they have in the truck?
Right. There's no proposal to have any shrinkage or, if there's any ash related to it. In some of the non-ferrous markets, you might see that, but in their proposal, there was no deduction for, any residual content that was on that. So they're just basically paying this per gross ton.
Okay, thank you.
I might add there that this isn't clean material. It is wet ash, coated, and so they also have to deal with that waste byproduct too. So pretty happy with the whole concept here. All right, anything else? No. Need a motion to
So,
approve it.
Mr. Chair, I'll move, let's see, where am I here? I'll move that the Public Works recommends that the board, move that the board approve the agreement with Metro's Metals for purchase of ferrous metals recovered from the waste-to-energy facility.
I'll second the motion.
All right, so been moved and seconded that we approve the contract for services with Metro Metals Northwest. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Next is somewhat of a continuation. We consider a second reading and adoption of an ordinance amending the noise code provisions. Joe Fenimore, Bruce Armstrong, I assume you'll explain it again, so I won't have to, but just pick us up from where we left it, please.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioners, Bruce Armstrong. I'm an assistant legal counsel with Marion County. I'm here with Joe Fenimore, who was going to start things off in discussing this proposed ordinance that was before you 2 weeks ago.
Okay, for the record, this is Joe Fenimore. This item before you is to consider a second reading for an ordinance amending the Marion County Noise Code found in Chapter 8.45 of the Marion County Code. As you know, under the code, certain sounds and sound levels are considered violations and subject to enforcement. However, in Section 8.45080I, there is an exception that allows any level of noise that is made in conjunction with any permitted commercial use outside of the Salem urban growth boundary. In order to address the complaints the county receives regarding loud music being played at night by permitted commercial uses, the board directed staff to develop an ordinance to amend the noise code. The ordinance amends Section 8.45080I and removes the exemption for sounds created by specific devices such as radios, musical instruments, those kinds of items. At board session 2 weeks ago on September 14th, the board approved the ordinance and read it by title once. The ordinance must be read by title a second time and then will become effective in 90 days. The board has the option to read the ordinance by title or take no action at this time, and we'll be happy to answer any questions.
Go ahead.
So the last time you were here, we asked who knew the outreach part of it, and then we received some emails afterwards. So can you report on that? Because that was the main reason that we did it only by second reading, is because we wanted to make sure that the affected parties were aware of what was going on.
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioner, it's my understanding that notice was sent out by the board's office and through Marion County Code Enforcement that notice was put out and potentially affected parties and interested parties were notified of this change. And I have not heard, there's been no report of any contact or follow-up with regard to this. Initially, I'm going back a little bit, but the board first addressed this issue. There was an exemption in place for both industrial and commercial uses. And a few months ago, the board removed the exemption for commercial uses within the urban growth boundary. And now what has come forward is consideration of the issue outside of the urban growth boundary. And so what we looked to do was focus the exemption so that it only applied to not every permitted commercial use, but only those relating to these kind of noises associated with, because that's where we've had problems, clubs, restaurants with music, bars, so where there's a DJ or a band and the impacts of the noise are affecting neighboring properties and individuals trying to sleep or carry on their business. So that's why we came through this route. We don't have anyone from code enforcement here today, but I have not been informed of any follow-up from anyone with regard to this. But this has been noticed, and potentially affected parties have been notified.
Okay, I'd like to know how they've been notified, because the board office just sent out a press release. We didn't contact anyone personally. And I do recall, Joe, that there was an email that was sent about Sergeant Baldridge right after the last hearing. So I'd like to put that on the record. Number one, I'm looking for it. And number two, to know, because we specifically asked if there would be contact that would be made.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I can't give you any more
I'm
detail.
asking Joe.
I was Sergeant Baldridge specifically told me that they did contact one of the businesses that was having issues with noise, and specifically told them that this was in process. And actually, we expected them to show up at the public comment section 2 weeks ago when you first considered this. I don't know for sure if there was any contact by him after that date.
Okay.
Well, I don't think there's a whole lot of numbers of establishments that will be affected by this. So in this one in particular, if they've had notice that it's coming, had an opportunity to have input, I don't know what else we can do. And I think where Commissioner Carlson is coming from, if there are a whole bunch more that I'm not thinking of, then I'd want to slow this process down too. So could you, I guess that's vague, but can you discuss that a bit? How you think the notices got out to those that may be affected?
I think doesn't become effective for 90 days from now. And I think if we remember, Commander Schultz indicated that code enforcement is in the sheriff's office is extremely active in getting the word out, letting people know what's coming, and working with them to try to adjust if they need to what's happening, so that they don't find themselves in violation.
Gloria, were you wanting to say something? Or?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Joe did point out that this ordinance will not take effect for 90 days, so that's roughly about the end of the year, beginning of next year. So there's 90 days to further communicate with any potentially affected parties.
That's fine. They'll know there's an ordinance, but what we'd like to have is involvement and, good discussion when we make that ordinance up, that it is fair to all and does accomplish what we want, and we seem to be missing that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just surprised that that wasn't brought forward today. That was the main reason we went from doing it by title, by emergency, was to allow the 2 weeks to get the information out. And so now you're coming back and saying that there's no more information than there was when you came 2 weeks ago.
Gloria?
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, you do have the option. It's a minimum of 2 weeks between readings.
rather
So
not
another
get to-
option would be to further continue this to another date for the second reading.
I'd rather do that.
Yeah, I think, excuse me, again, I think I'd rather do that too, but I would like then to have just, I don't care what the letter is, but to take those that are potentially, don't count on the newspapers, just say this is being discussed and here is how you can make your input, and then bring us that list of names, and I'm sure we'll be ready to approve it. We want to approve this, I'm sorry, I do, but I want to make sure that it's a correct process.
And if Sergeant Baldridge could be here himself to talk about what he has done, if you're not doing the outreach and it's code enforcement, then we need someone here to be able to report on
Or
that.
somebody from code enforcement, sure.
Right, exactly.
I think he is, today, he's out for a period of time, but we'll make sure that is done, and we'll make sure someone is available next time.
And if I could just add, properly noticed doesn't count, all right? It's outreach. So just because we put it on the list and we put it on CCTV and, send it to the newspapers and they never print it, that doesn't count, all right? So it needs to be that we know that the people that are going to be affected know that this is going to come and affect them.
Yes.
You have something?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I know we slowed this down from the last time, but I think if I remember right, it was driven by a citizen who came and testified on the original urban growth boundary decision that we were making on the ordinance. And it was specific to a particular location where she lived. So if we could just at least know that location, if they were invited, as you said, the first time and they didn't show up, we can't, we can take them to water, but we can't make them drink. But if we could just verify that specific location has been contacted again, that would be satisfactory to me. I don't know of any others that we're going to have a problem with or have had problems with, so.
Certainly, yeah.
Thank you.
We can do that.
All right, and then let's just get it rescheduled in a week or two, whatever it takes to accomplish this, and we're ready to go. It won't be effective January 1st, but I don't think that's critical. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So do we need to make a motion?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, yes, I would.
We'd move to continue
It'd be
it.
better to continue this to a date certain.
So what date do we want?
Today's the 1st. So,
We say a
You want
couple
2
weeks?
weeks?
Like October
14th?
15th?
That'd be fine.
All right, I would move that the board continue the second reading and adoption of the ordinance amending the noise code provisions until our regular Wednesday board session, October 15th, 2014.
I'll second.
Okay, it's moved and seconded to continue this to October 15th, 2014 at a regular board meeting. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our next item is a special item in my eyes. It's the first public hearing to consider formation of the Marion County Extension and 4-H District. I might go over before we begin, because we haven't had all the public hearings we have had in the past, how this goes. We start with staff will review and present a report, and then the applicant and their representatives will testify. Then we ask for any testimony in support. And then we ask for those in opposition, and the last is those general comments. We have a number of people who have signed up. If anyone else would like to sign up to speak, contact Kim there on the end of the bench. So, Tammy Getch, Derek Godwin are here, and would you like, first of all, I'll open this public hearing and then ask you to begin.
Thank you, Commissioners. For the record, my name is Tamara Getch. I'm the Director of Marion County Community Services. I serve as the county's liaison to our local OSU Extension program. Today is the first of 2 public hearings, and we are seeking input on the initiation for the Marion County OSU Extension and 4-H Service District. This hearing was set in accordance with the regulations that govern the formation of Agricultural Education Extension Service District, ORS 451.0101I. And we, to public notice this hearing, we provided a paid public notice in the Statesman Journal. We've placed it in 5 public locations: the Salem Library, the Transit District, Elections Office, and Clerk's Office, in our office in the Courthouse Square. And then we've also contacted all of our cities with the public notice, asking them to put that into a public location. The cities, we don't know if those were posted specifically, but we do know that we did post in 5 locations, public locations beyond the paid publication, which is 2 more than required. I'm also joined today, as Commissioner Brentano mentioned, by Derek Godwin, who's a West Central Regional Administrator for our local OSU Extension program. And our goal today is to give you some backdrop on the role that OSU Extension plays in Marion County and the important services and supports it provides to our community members. In addition, just helping you to understand how we got to this point today. As you all know, and many of our viewers know, OSU Extension has played a vital role in Marion County's providing practical information, important information that help to improve quality of life, and providing education support on agricultural, natural resources, economic development, family life, health, nutrition, and youth development since 1911. So it's been a long-standing program in Marion County that has provided years of support for Marion County's farms, families, and forests. Marion County is comprised of a little over 2,700 farms, which comprise over 300,000 acres of land, which is approximately 40% of Marion County proper. Those farms produce over 70 different commodities, and those commodities help Marion County to be the highest valued county of agricultural production in Oregon. There was an estimate in 2012 that value of sales were upward of $639 million. In addition, OSU Extension 4-H programs offer an array of services and programs to urban and rural youth, provide life skills, offering quality youth experiences through the various programs that they provide, and then give young people chances to participate in community life and interact with other individuals. Annually, we collect information on the various supports and services that OSU Extension and other programs of Marion County provide. And they reported that nearly 50,000 residents in Marion County were served through OSU Extension. And they also trained more than 600 4-H, master gardeners, and other volunteers to help them provide these services in the various pockets of our community. Throughout Marion County's OSU Extension program's existence, Marion County this program has been an important part of Marion County's supports to its citizens. I'd like to talk a little bit about the funding of this program. Over the years, Marion County has provided OSU Extension Service supports in forms of office space. So this is Marion County proper. So we work with them together, and then Marion County provides office space for the local program, provide cost coverage for utilities, maintenance. We provide supports for clerical and program support staff, faculty education programs and research budgets, technology, various communication needs, use of county buildings for their education and different events that they hold. They currently host property over on Center Street that is a demonstration garden for the Master Gardener program, and we also provide other financial support. Through these supports that the county provides, both in kind and financial, Marion County support has really been very steadfast over these years, but in the last approximately 14 years, the program has experienced some downward trends of state and federal funds that has put at risk the program's stability and viability in producing the level of service that is needed. This has been approximately about a 33% loss to the program. It takes away about 14 specialized positions, and we equate that to about 6.6 FTE, if I'm right. This type of unpredictable budget environment is not good for any program, and then when you put that on top of the type of program and supports that OSU Extension provides to our communities and the number of individuals that are touched by the services they provide, it really does express the threat that this type of vulnerable budget puts on the program's stability. So with all of that, we began looking at what kind of options might exist for Marion County and OSU Extension to work collaboratively in addressing these financial shortcomings that were out of our hands. We can't tell the state nor the federal government how much to allocate to Marion County or other OSU Extension programs around the state, but there were options that we wanted to pursue. So we began exploring, Marion County and the program, Derek and others, began exploring funding options that would bring the needed stability and supports for the diverse and growing needs of our community. And I just also want to mention, too, that one of the key reasons that the Board of County Commissioners have been involved in these conversation so closely is because the Board of County Commissioners, for our viewing audience, serve as the board for OSU Extension. And so we work in tandem to ensure that we have viable, thriving services and supports through those outreach efforts. During these conversations, many options were explored, and one of the things that was brought out was that many counties across Oregon were experiencing similar deficits in their budgets, and were having to look at options. There were other counties. They found that in their research, they found that other counties have been successful in establishing an agricultural educational extension service district, and that currently there are 21 counties of Oregon's 36 counties who have a similar district serving their community and help to support the budget stability needed for their OSU extension services and programs. There's now 22. And so I just wanted this so that everybody understands that this isn't just something that we decided a month ago. This has been a really long process. There's been conversations well over a year and a half, 2 years ago. This has been a long process, and of late, over the last year and a half, we've made substantial steps, significant and purposeful steps in getting us to this point today of our first public hearing. So I just wanted to highlight those real quickly, and then I'll turn it over to Derek. So in February 2013, OSU Extension and Marion County Board of Commissioners held a work session, and they discussed the possibility of pursuing an agricultural educational extension service district for Marion County. Following that session, the Citizens for Marion County Extension was formed, and that group is comprised of folks who believe and support OSU Extension services and understand the importance that they play in our community. And they would help to guide steps and the necessary grassroots supports and gathering the grassroots supports that were needed in order to be this item to be placed on an election in May 2015. So work began as well after the February work session on a feasibility statement. So staff and citizens and others helped to begin the necessary steps to move that forward. In November of 2013, the citizens group sought additional input from the board, explaining their progress to date on the feasibility study, and then to gain input from the direction. At that meeting, there was some concurrence from the board on moving forward, but they, as the Board of Commissioners and as the Board of OSU Extension, wanted us to pursue the initiative petition process, and that meant that we were going to need the supports of the citizens group to help us initiate that key grassroots participation and education of other key leaders and partners in our community about the important services and supports that OSU provides to our community. And I can contest only a few of those meetings, but Derek attended all of those meetings, and there were many meetings held at the beginning of that point to present to help inform folks about what Marion County OSU Extension Service provides and is about. In December of 2013, a work session was held. There was an in-depth discussion about the service district, and again, to get direction from the board. There was initial feedback held that over on the various meetings that were held the 30 days prior. We had revisions that were made to the feasibility statement. We also had a draft resolution on the concurrence that we would present later. And then there was discussion about the proposed district and the levy rate. At that point, we looked at a 0.5 cents per 1,000 assessed value, and that is what began the path of what we are proposing to be put forward and how the detailed budget would be developed. In January 2014, the board unanimously carried and passed a resolution in support of the proposal for the initiative petition to form a Marion County Extension and 4-H district with the levy rate of 5 cents per 1,000. The citizen group began seeking chief petitioner support that was going to be necessary in order for this to move forward beyond the board's desire to move it forward and to allow for this initiative petition to progress. Staff also worked with Marion County's assessor's office to ensure that we had appropriate and solid information on assessed values in Marion County, and that our information that we were sharing with individuals were accurate. In March of 2014, the citizen group and staff attended a management update to gain board direction on a draft resolution. So we're moving down the path and we're progressing forward. And this draft resolution would be brought to local communities throughout Marion County. Marion County has 20 cities. We're the county that has the largest number of cities in the state of Oregon, so we had a huge task ahead of us. And thankfully, with the support of the citizen group, that would, though it's not an easy task, it was a task that we could handle. They also asked for the board to waive and or reduce the election costs, which would be about $10,000 that would be associated with deposits and other election costs. And then they also asked the board to accept the final revision of the feasibility statement. And I just want to mention in your packet today, we've included, even though you've already approved the feasibility statement, that document is in your packet, so it's part of today's record. And then in April 2014, the citizen group brought the issues to discuss at the management update. They gave update on the draft, on the city resolutions. We began having success visiting those communities, and they just provided input on the grassroots campaign and how they were progressing in collecting and securing signatures through the various events. We then came before board management update in July again of this year and provided input. There were 13 of the 20 cities that had signed resolutions at that time, and we were gaining speed on our signature collections, and the citizen group and others were out in community events. They visited festivals and all kinds of activities throughout the county to help educate and inform our local citizenry about the program and about the important services it provides. And then lastly, this last August, we were able to secure all 20 cities and making substantial progress in our grassroots signature campaign. The citizen group sought board approval for the order of initiation of Marion County Extension and 4-H District. You at that time approved that, and because of that approval, we're now before the board in the first hearing that is required to hold, that we're required to hold following the approval of the order of initiation. I also want to mention that in your packet today, we've worked with legal counsel to provide a boundary description, and we've provided certified copies of all 20 cities so that you can see each statement from each of the communities that we visited and secured, so that the boundary is reflected in what the board of, what legal counsel has provided to us. So that's kind of what got us here today, and I can answer other questions, but I'd like to give Derek just an opportunity to talk about the feasibility statement and to help outline any of the impacts that this particular initiative has on our community, as well as answer any specific questions about the citizen group that has been working, or at your pleasure.
Good morning. So as Tammy said, I'm Derek Godwin. I work for Oregon State University as a regional administrator for the West Central region, which includes Marion County. So a little bit more background here. As part of the process, so I did want to point out that in visiting all of the 20 cities in Marion County, it went very well. Lots of support in all the cities. And in fact, we only had 5 no votes, individual no votes, as part of the process out of about 120 people voting. So it was very positive. In each of those 5, in just about pretty much every case, they all stated their support of extension programs like 4-H and Master Gardeners, but for a few various reasons, they were voting as a no vote. So I'd like to tell you a little bit about the feasibility statement and just touch on some highlights there as part of this process. So we're required by statute to have a feasibility statement that addresses 3 main points. And they are, the first is we need to provide a description of the services and functions to be performed or provided by the proposed district. Number 2 is to provide an analysis of the relationships between these services and functions and other existing or needed government services. And then number 3 is to provide a proposed first-year line item operating budget and a projected third-year line item operating budget for the new district that demonstrates its economic feasibility. So that's what's in the feasibility statement. I can just summarize, and we've talked about this quite a bit. It really comes down to a couple of main priorities. One is to provide secure funding. Obviously, everyone is in support of extension now, but this does provide a permanent source of funding into the future. The second thing is, what has Marion County been losing, and what do we feel are the most important gains that we could have through this? And that has been agriculture as being a big part of this. What can we do to invest in agriculture and our economy and jobs related to that? And then second has been youth development, our youth for our future, and the importance of those programs, the 4-H programs that we provide. And we've seen a lot of losses in that over the years, and so that is a second priority. And then the third component is our community food systems and the various components of that, from our farmers at providing products to helping people understand how to eat nutritionally and prepare food safely. And then also, of course, the third component of our community food systems and helping people understand how they can grow their own food and have that connection. So we've coined the phrase farms, food, families as being the priorities for this service district going forward. So with that, a lot of details in the feasibility statement, and I won't go through that. It highlights, the various positions that have been lost in the financial situation. I will turn towards the budget and just kind of explain briefly, because in some cases this is a little bit confusing. But the state and federal dollars and grant dollars that are providing positions now serve Marion County, those are expected to continue. So what this provides is a county source of funds that increases some positions and services and also provides the support dollars for these positions to continue to serve the county. In the budget, as I mentioned, this is based on a 5 cents per thousand assessed value, and I have numbers from the assessor's office that they provided and to help put together these budgets. They're in Appendix A, and it has the first year and third year budget. And included in that, so a couple of key things here. One is that this was based on the fiscal year 2013-14. It also assumes a 2% budget increase, which is a pretty conservative amount. The assessor said it should be between 2 to 3%, and so we used 2%. And then also we had some initial assessment or initial analysis on compression. And so there is some loss due to compression, as well as not all 100% of the taxes are collected. And so we have those losses as well. So I think that I think that that's about it for right now. I would say that of the people that are here today, Kara Fisher is one of the chief petitioners, and she's here today and has a number of things where she could talk about the Citizens for Marion County Extension and some of the experiences that that group has been having over the last year and a half.
All right. Questions or comments? If I could, Gloria, I should have started with you, and I'm sorry to always put you on the spot, but I like to do that anyway. But could you describe what the procedure, what we're trying to accomplish here today, and the setting, just how it all works before we go any further? Just real quick, if you would.
Sure, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. This is the first public hearing of 2 required public hearings whenever the board considers formation of a special district or a change in boundaries. This occurs under ORS Chapter 198, and that incorporates by reference certain criteria that you would be considering in this public hearing, and I brought those along for you so I could just quickly hit on those. One of those is the fact that under subsection 2A here, territory within a city can't be included in a district without the consent of the city councils. And they have collected the resolutions from all 20 of the cities. So those territories could be considered to be included as part of this district. The other criteria is set out here in subsection 1, the local comprehensive planning for the area. Marion County has a lot of rural land. The economic, demographic, and sociological trends and projections pertinent to the proposal, past and prospective physical development of the land that would be affected directly, indirectly, and then the goals, those are the land use goals, the goals that are adopted under 197.225. These standards are set out in ORS 199.462. So you have already heard some information that would address some of these criteria, the feasibility study, some of the information in that, and some of the testimony. And as you hear other testimony today, you can consider that relative to this criteria and whether or not the county as a whole, because the territory is proposing the whole county, would be benefited by the formation of an agricultural educational service district.
All right. Thank you, Gloria. Any questions regarding that? All right. Tammy, Derek, thank you. We may or may not call you back. But now we'll talk. We have 6 people that have signed up in support. I've got to repay a little debt to the city of Salem. They always treat me good. Normally we go off the top of the list, but Salem Mayor Anna Peterson's here, and I'd like to ask a little indulgence, and if you would be the first to speak, Mayor. And if you'd come up, give your name and address, and go ahead. Yeah, I see that.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. I'm Anna Peterson. I'm the Mayor of Salem, and it truly is an honor and a privilege to come and talk with you today about this very important effort. I do value your time and the commitment that you've already made in the past to agriculture, and I'm here because I strongly favor referring to the ballot this special district. And I want to speak for a few minutes about the value of agriculture in our community, not just the city of Salem. In Salem, agriculture is our #1 economic engine, and as an economic development strategy, the city of Salem, city council, and city management have specified truly that we need to focus and be strategic about agriculture, and one way that we did that 2 years ago was to form the Mayor's Forum on Agriculture, which includes everything from the farmers markets and the growers to the processors, to those who add value to food products, to the exporters, and on the city and the county and the state level. So about 60 people comprise the forum, and just a little history about that because it shows the breadth and the depth of agriculture and the importance of agriculture in our community and in our city. There's probably isn't an accounting firm, an insurance agency, a law firm, or a real estate agency in the city of Salem that does not have a major list of agriculture providers and growers and processors on their list of clients. So it truly is an economic engine for us. Specifically, the Extension Service has been an important part of the economic, the educational, and the social fabric and cornerstones of our heritage. But also, I believe it's an important fundamental cornerstone for the future, both for the economy, for education, and for the social fabric of our communities. In terms of the value of the farmers markets, the value of the importers, of the exporters, from that entire range, we know that the Extension Service provides a kind of an underpinning and an encouragement to farmers and to marketers, and we certainly support that in our community. I also want to speak to the fact that despite compression that it would be further compression caused by the passage of this initiative, the City of Salem strongly supports this initiative and encourages you to place that on the ballot in May of 2015. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And then, unless there's a question of the mayor? All right, thank you. I'll stick with one more from Mayor Turner's also here, Paul Thomas, and then we'll follow the list. Paul?
Well, I appreciate the way you're sequencing these. It's certainly the big and the small of the situation. But I'm here, I believe in OSU Extension, and of course I'm prejudiced, I'm a master gardener. But beyond that, of course, I'm the Mayor of Turner. And what I see as a mayor is I see master gardeners in my local schools. I see them at Earth Day. I've seen, I've had, called and had help from forestry in my parks. So I just see it as a tremendous advantage. And then as an add-on to that, I do agree very strongly with Anna Peterson that there's tremendous economic value to OSU Extension. I was just recently over in Carlton and indulging in one of my favorite hobbies, imbibing of some of Oregon's finest wines. And the difference in Carlton, which is a town basically the same size as mine, is just really noticeable. The economic vitality there, the amount of business that's being attracted to the area because of the tourists who come. And tourists who come and tour wine regions are not low-money tourists. So it generates a lot of money. I believe for a town like mine, I have a much better chance of duplicating a Carlton model than I do of waiting for Microsoft to call me and tell me they want to build a 10,000 employee factory in my town. I figure Anna'd gobble it up. But I do feel for small towns especially, if the winery business continues to grow in Marion County, and I know from talking with my friends in the winery business, they'll all tell you, especially when they're starting out, OSU Extension is absolutely invaluable to them. Once they're up and running and they've learned how to grow grapes, obviously they don't have as much interaction, but they'll still tell you that they're online checking with OSU reports on conditions and so forth. So I would urge you to go ahead and support this initiative, and hopefully it'll all work out and we'll see a vibrant county here with a lot more employment. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Janelle Ingram.
Do I what?
No, thank you, Paul.
Oh.
Thank you, Commissioners. I am Genoa Ingram speaking today on behalf of Marion County Farm Bureau with approximately 600 members, rural and farming families throughout Marion County. I will be very brief as you have my written testimony before you. I wanted to just echo some of the comments that were already made. Marion County is proud of the fact that Marion County Farm Bureau is proud of the fact that Marion County does represent the highest value of agriculture production of any county in Oregon. And we do strongly support the Marion County Extension Service in the formation of a special district in order to support that program. I just wanted to touch on two of the programs very briefly. From the standpoint of Marion County Farm Bureau, I can tell you that our members do frequently use the Master Gardener program. We have had calls into the office with questions regarding particular challenges with regard to crops and such, and we always refer those to the Master Gardener program because we know and are confident that that is where our farm families will find their best answers. Second, we support strongly the 4-H program, and we very much support the core values of that program. The Marion County Farm Bureau board members are very active in education, ag in the schools. They do like to go out and teach in the classroom about farming practices, and they do support those strong core values that the 4-H presents. You do have, I hope, in your records, a letter that Marion County Farm Bureau sent back in January in support of the program. We also provided a letter electronically on August 6th asking that this issue be placed on the ballot, and that remains our position today. And then to get off track a little bit from the farming part of it, as some of you probably know, I've worked extensively with special districts throughout the state of Oregon, and that is one of the fastest, in fact, it is the fastest growing unit of government nationwide because it does provide an efficient and valuable way to sustain particular programs, and we do support that. Happy to answer any questions you may have, but hope you will take the comments of Marion County Farm Bureau into consideration. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I just want to say thank you for coming and for waiting for so long to testify also to our mayors.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Commissioners. My pleasure.
All right, Pete Dane.
Oh, good morning, Commissioners. My name is Pete Dane. I'm a resident of Salem and a Marion County Master Gardener. And the Master Gardener program is a volunteer group other than administration. Every county and or most of the counties in Oregon do have a Master Gardener program. There's many benefits to the Marion County Master Gardeners program. It's part of County Agriculture Extension Office on Center Street in Salem. And each year, the Marion County Master Gardeners, headed by Neil Bill, submits a report of their accomplishments to OSU, and I've included that, give it to the recording secretary. The Marion County Master Gardeners program helps to promote and educate the public about gardening and horticulture. The plant and nursery business is one of the largest sectors of Marion County agriculture. In 2013, the local Master Gardeners program trained and graduated 25 persons. These class members and an additional 75 veteran Master Gardeners reported a total of 11,765 hours of community service. They also staffed the popular Home Gardener telephone helpline that served 1,892 clients. The Statesman Journal newspaper in Salem on Fridays lists the helpline telephone number in the Real Living Gardening section It's also listed in the telephone book under the County Services section. Master gardeners volunteer to staff clinics at various county venues during the year. For example, Salem Saturday Market, the Yard Garden and Patio Show, Earth Day, Ag Fest, Marion County Fair, and the State Fair. They recorded giving garden information to 455 clients. The Master Gardener Speakers Bureau provides speakers to 26 area organizations, providing horticulture information to 605 attendees. The Master Gardeners also set up a booth at the annual Homeschool Kids Day at the Oregon Garden. The volunteers also contribute a weekly radio show on KBZY in Salem. I've talked to several persons who were contractors and landscape technicians that completed the training to be a Master Gardener. They said it was a boost to their careers to have the latest information on horticulture from OSU. Gardening is quite beneficial to public health and community beautification. All these services improve the logistics support for agriculture, allied businesses, and customers in greater Marion County. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Pete. Tony Courier.
Hello, my name is Tony Courier. I live in Northeast Salem. I've been a part of Dan Hoynacki's 4-H program since October of 2011. Although I have graduated, I continue to volunteer for this program. It has given me the opportunity to work internationally. I have been to 4 conferences overseas. I have worked at all levels, from youth participant to helping to keep the conference running. I have also contributed 600 hours of service learning to the community through this program. It opens up doors not just in foreign countries, but also it has opened doors into the community and given me the opportunity to participate in programs like the Youth Farm. The Youth Farm grows food at Oregon School for the Deaf. We donate 60% of our food to the food share, and the food share is critical to our success. 40% of that is sold, and that money goes back to the youth so that they can earn a stipend for working during the summer. We work 20 hours a week, and we get up on Saturdays to sell this produce. Without programs like these, I wouldn't be able to go overseas, and I would like to ask you to support OSU Extension and to establish a service district, because this helps youth identify who they are, passions, skills, and abilities, and connect to the community. I don't know where I would be without this, and I know of many youth who are more invested than me. And although I can't quite imagine what that's like, I can imagine the youth I work with every day who were in my position several years ago before this program. This program has changed me completely from who I was. I don't know what I'd be doing today without this program, and I'm very thankful for it. And I work hard with these youth to try and help them discover what they can do, not just for these youth and not just for myself, but because empowering youth like this helps them support projects like the Youth Farm. And the Youth Farm helps the community, helps feed the hungry. And youth need to know that they can do something like that in the community, that they can participate, that their school, their classroom has a very important thing to them. And I feel without programs like this that they will continue to feel powerless, and it'll be very hard for them to find a job. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Tony.
Mr. Chair, just
Certainly.
a comment. And Tony, thank you for your feedback and what it's meant to you. But it's amazing how work is a gift, and when you work and get that gift and give it away to others, how it makes you feel. Thanks for sharing that with us.
And finally, Kara Fisher. And as Kara's coming up, I'm going to disclose my lack of impartiality by making a comment about her that I really should have had her go first, because Kara's the one that believed in this enough to put her own name, perhaps her own money on the line to make this happen. And that needs to be acknowledged. So with that, Kara, would you go ahead?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's very generous of you. For the record, I'm Kara Fisher. I reside in Salem. I am a member of the steering committee for the Citizens for Marion County Extension. But the work that this group has done in the last year is really quite impressive for a group of citizens. Each of the 20 cities that you have the resolution for in your packet, a member or members of the steering committee attended those city council meetings and testified in favor of this request of the city to support the resolution. We've also spent time developing outreach materials and displays. We recruited and trained volunteers to circulate our petition. We developed the petition, which was not an easy process. And I think we've gained just tremendous support throughout the county in completing those efforts. What brought me personally to this effort is my interest in agriculture and economic development for my county. I think that the Extension Service offers a tremendous opportunity for us to grow both farms and economic development. And the other members of the Citizen Committee and I are totally committed to finding sustainable funding for these vital programs. Rather than going on more about my personal interest, I've been asked to share with you a letter from NORPAC Foods Incorporated that I'd like to read into your record, please. The letter is dated September 26, 2014, Marion County Board of Commissioners. On behalf of NORPAC Foods Incorporated and the 240 farmer members of this cooperative, I am writing to express our strong support for the efforts to establish a Marion County Extension and 4-H service district. Agriculture is an important part of Marion County's economic success. The county has the highest value of agricultural production of any county in Oregon, with estimated gross sales of $639 million for all commodities in 2012. We believe that long-term support and sustainability for the OSU Extension Service is critical to the vitality, growth, and economic development of Marion County. Our farmers grow, and their NORPAC cooperative processes and markets a variety of vegetables produced on more than 15,000 acres in Marion County. Our growers rely on OSU Extension Service to remain productive to sustain their cooperative organization. The faculty of OSU Extension Service has conducted a wide variety of applied research on farms and at research facilities that is critical to our growers. Some examples include offering bilingual training to farm workers to help them identify and track insect populations, timely insect location information resulting in reduced pesticide applications, improving methods of weed and disease control in snap beans, squash, and sweet corn, wildlife habitat and riparian restoration demonstrations, and development of a web-based information portal for vegetable growers in Oregon. Extension plays a vital role in providing research-based information to farmers and works closely with growers to help solve problems and manage resources wisely. In addition to this service, Extension provides a critical foundation to our community's future by helping young people gain life skills and experiences in science, healthy living, and citizenship through the 4-H Youth Development Program. We also acknowledge the importance of Extension work in forestry, community horticulture, nutrition, and family and community health. The OSU Extension Service positively affects the lives of many Marion County residents. NORPAC and its cooperative farmer members support the establishment of a Marion County Extension and 4-H service district and support the commissioners referring this to the ballot for the May 2015 election. Sincerely signed, George F. Smith, President and CEO of NORPAC.
Mr. Smith said that so much better than I could, so I'm glad that I could tag on to his words. In closing, I would assure you that the Citizens for Marion County Extension stands ready to take the next steps necessary should you move this issue to the May of 2015 ballot. When that happens, if that happens, we will immediately develop a political action committee. We are already working on a campaign strategy, and we'll start the fundraising necessary to deliver that strategy throughout the county. I'd be happy to respond to questions if you have any for me today.
No, again, but thank you for all your involvement, and again, coming here today, all of you.
Thank you.
All right, are there any other questions? So I would invite Derek and Tammy back, otherwise, let's go ahead.
I think we're ready.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we close the first public hearing and that we consider setting a hearing date for November 12th, 2014, with no modifications to the proposed district.
Okay.
I'll second the motion.
All right, it's moved and seconded to close the first public hearing and set the hearing date for November 12th, 2014, and adding no modifications. Gloria.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, what we would do is following the board's vote, we would bring back an order with the findings and the notice to next week's board session as a consent item.
All right, does that interfere with any of this motion setting the next one then?
No, Mr. Chair, this is
Just for the record?
This is carrying out, it would be carrying out your
All right.
decision today in the form of the order with the required findings.
All right.
She just doesn't want you to be surprised.
I know that.
Okay.
I know that. Any further discussion? All right, then I'll call the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion passes. So we're one step closer. Thank you all for coming in, and perhaps we'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Kevin. All right, our last item this morning then is to talk about the places we'll be together in a little bit. Commissioner Cameron's leaving for one of them right now, and it's at 11:30 to 5 in Oregon Forest Resource Institute Forestry Tour at the Oregon Garden, 879 Main Street in Silverton. There's also a meeting at noon at the Woodburn-Marion County meeting at Luis's Taqueria, 523 Front Street in Woodburn. And then this evening, 4 o'clock to 6, Community Education Forum, Marijuana and Our Youth, and that'll be at the Kaiser Civic Center, 930 Chamala Road, Northeast in Kaiser. And more for some of these people, at 7 o'clock to 8, a candidate forum at the Salem Library, Laux Auditorium, 585 Liberty Street Southeast in Salem. Thursday, department head meeting at 9 till 10:30 in the morning. Department head elected official meeting in the Commissioner's Boardroom, 5th floor, 555 Court Street Northeast in Salem. And that's followed Thursday at the 2nd, 11 o'clock, Statesman Journal Editorial Board Meeting, 280 Church Street Northeast in Salem. And then at 12 to 1, Oregon Garden Discovery Pavilion grand opening, Oregon Garden, 879 West Main. Excuse me, in Silverton. Monday, 8:30 to 9, Commissioner's Calendar Review. You know, would you mind going on with this? I'm losing it. Are you as bad as I am? Please.
Okay, Monday, October 6th, 8:30, Commissioner's Calendar Review. That's at Courthouse Square on the 5th floor in the Silverton Conference Room, followed at 9 a.m. by Management Update. Tuesday, October 7th at 9:30 in the morning, we have a work session on raising chickens in backyards, Commissioner Brentano's favorite topic, and that will be here at Courthouse Square in the Silverton Conference Room on the 5th floor. October 7th, still Tuesday, 1:30 to 2:30, is a work session on CCTV and how the county is going to partner with them, also in the Silverton Conference Room on the 5th floor at Courthouse Square. October 8th, Wednesday, 7:30 a.m., the Marion County Chiefs of Police meeting will be held at McNary Golf Course Restaurant, 155 McNary Estates Drive North in Kaiser. That will be followed at 9 a.m. For our regular Wednesday board session here in the Senator Hearing Room at Courthouse Square. At noon on Wednesday, October 8th, is a SEDCOR forum, and the topic is reentry, prisoner reentry and employment. And that will be at the Broadway Commons on the second floor, 1300 Broadway Street, Northeast in Salem. And then in the afternoon on Wednesday, October 8th at 3:30 p.m. is the monthly meeting of the Economic Development Advisory Board that will be held in the Commissioner's Boardroom, 5th floor at Courthouse Square.
Thanks for taking it over. I'm only good for one page of things to do apparently, and then I get nervous. All right, anything else this morning?
I think we probably better close.
All right.
And get better.
Then let's call this meeting adjourned. Boy, I hope that isn't the start of something. I didn't have it till right then.